What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Bass Fishing Declassified. In this video, I want to share a bait that pros are trying desperately to keep hidden from amateur anglers because it's catching a ton of big fish and becoming one of the best tournament baits in the second half of 2024. You definitely want to pick up some of these baits. Let me show you how you use them, when to throw them, and how to put a lot of big fish in the boat. Let's get into it. So I'm probably going to get in trouble from a few guys for sharing this, but basically what a lot of anglers are doing is evolving the mid-strolling and Demiki rig techniques by using larger JDM soft plastics in the 6 to 8 inch range. A lot of these bigger bass are getting accustomed to those small baits, and by upsizing your bait, just like guys would upsize from like a small swim bait to a big glide bait, anglers are getting a lot of bigger bites and maybe catching fewer fish, but they're winning a lot of tournaments because they can upsize the quality of their fish. Now, I started doing this last year actually, and one of the baits I started doing this with was this 6-inch depth Sakamata shad on a 3/8 and 1/2 ounce Megabass body balance jig head. And I was catching a lot of fish last September and October doing this, and I was having a lot of success when the fish were feeding on bigger gizzard shad. So I wanted to kind of continue trying this, and another rig that I was using a little bit was this Demiki, it's actually a Demiki head with this 5.5 inch Hog Farmer spunk shad. This has a 3/0 hook, 1/2 ounce to 3/8 ounce weight. And again, fishing it just like you would a normal kind of Demiki rig, just with a bigger profile bait. And this is working really well. A lot of guys are using both of these rigs. And while I have had some really good success, I feel like even this is getting a little bit overplayed on my local lakes. So what I've been doing is actually utilizing some stuff from Core Tackle to kind of get an advantage on a lot of guys who are doing this by using some of the heavier and bigger hover rigs we have to do the exact same kind of stuff that guys are doing at the top level, but using something these fish have not seen at all. So right here we have this, again, Raid fish roller 6.5 inch bait, and I have the 6/0 1/4 ounce Core Tackle HD hover rig. So this is a bigger, beefier hover rig, and I cut off the weed guard that comes on it. And the way you rig up this big Raid fish roller, this one has a few fish catches on it, and all you do is you rig it about 1/4 inch into the head, bring it out kind of in the middle of the bait here, then thread that bait up the shank, and then pull the nose of that plastic over the nose of the hover rig, and there you go. Now this bait will rock side to side like crazy. It has an amazing body roll side to side, and all you do is shake your rod tip just like you would with a standard Demiki rig. And a lot of fish, again, will be drawn to this bait that maybe are accustomed to other smaller Demikis. And I'm actually throwing this without forward-facing sonar recently on Beaver Lake and Grand Lake, just fishing it over the tops of brush piles and schools of fish without using forward-facing sonar. And because this bait is so big and it flashes so much, it has a lot more drawing power. So you don't have to bring this bait right up against a brush pile, a rock pile, something like that to get them to bite. And I feel like just that hover rig with that 1/4 ounce size gives this big bait enough body roll. I sometimes feel like even with these like Megabass body balance head or like a bigger ball head, you don't get that much rock out of it. You get some rock, but you don't get as much rock because that weight is so far in front and this bait is so big. So by having that weight distributed through the bait, you get a lot more roll. And I do know there's a few guys who are actually trying to come up with ways to get a bigger hook, like a 5/0 hook, into some of these baits, both in these heavier heads, but also some of the lighter heads. There's really not a lot of great options for like a really light jig head that you can put in these bigger flukes. So guys are actually melting down old swim bait heads and trying to reform them into little tiny ball heads in a 5/0 or 6/0 hook. And I actually was trying something similar myself last fall basically and into the spring. So what we did at Core Tackle is actually design a lighter hover rig. So this is a 5/0 1/8 ounce, and we also have a 5/0 1/16 ounce hover rig, which is even lighter than this. And I've been throwing this a ton over the past 3 months testing it, and have caught some big fish and some big bags, a lot of numbers. And basically that 5/0 hover rig, which is brand new. We just launched it on the website last week. So if you guys want to check it out, go to coretackle.com. We don't actually have that many of these, so you want to go pick them up while we have them in stock. They're going to go out of stock really fast, I think. But basically all you're doing is pairing it with those, 6 and 7 inch plastic baits. This is that 6-inch depth Sakamata. You have the 6.5 inch Hog Farmer spunk shad. Again, it lines up fits in perfect with that bigger 6.5-inch bait, and then you have that bigger 6.5-inch raid fish roller. But what I'm doing that's actually unique, not just rigging this hover rig in here, I'm actually creating a different action than a standard Demiki by doing something a little bit sneaky. So what I'm doing is, you actually look at this bait right here. It's hard to see, but there's actually a nail weight in the bottom of that bait. So I'll take this Hog Farmer spunk shad and basically rig it for you. But what I'm doing is taking that same hover rig, 5/0 hover rig, rigging it in through 1/4 inch down, feeding it through. And then once I get that straight, it's not going to be perfect on this one, guys, because I'm doing it on camera in the dark here. So give me a break on my rigging if it's not perfectly straight. Rig that thing up and then pull the head over. So now you have that 6.5-inch beefy soft plastic bait with that 5/0 hook. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking a nail weight. So this right here is a 3/32 ounce lead nail weight, and I also use some tungsten nail weights that get up to like 1/8 of an ounce. And what I'm doing is I'm putting that nail weight in the belly of that soft plastic. So I'm going to basically feed that nail weight. Hopefully I'm on camera here, guys. Sorry if I'm not doing this 100% perfect. I can do this better when I'm not talking, but feed that through. That gets it all the way in there. Now that lead is, I don't know if y'all can see that, but that lead is in the belly of that bait. And what that does, it's crazy. It actually causes that bait to, on the fall, rock side to side. So it rocks side to side on the fall without imparting any motion. So like this one I have here with that raid fish roller, that bait, when it's on the hover rig, will rock side to side on the fall. It's wild. And it will draw so many fish, because not only now is that bait having action when I'm shaking the rod and doing the, you know, shaking the minnow technique, but when that bait falls, it's creating its own flash, and those fish will get drawn to it. If you watch them on forward-facing sonar, they will come up to this bait from 20 feet of water, up 20 feet, and come destroy it on the fall without imparting any action, because that bait wobbles. It's just the way that center of gravity is with the weight at the bottom, and then that hover rig with that lighter weight at the head. It causes that thing to rock. So it's an incredible deal. I haven't seen anyone doing it. I haven't shown this before to anyone other than to Matt Steffen and like a couple friends. So this is a brand new thing I've been doing. And the first time I tried it on Grand Lake, I literally pulled up on a school of fish where I'd caught like 18 pounds already and hadn't had a bite in an hour. And I pulled up with, it was actually this exact color bait in that Raid Super Fish Roller, had that 5/0 1/8 ounce hover rig with the weight in the bottom. And I pulled up and caught another 15 pounds of fish in 5 casts with this rig, watching that bait just kind of slowly flutter down. They wouldn't touch anything. I was throwing normal, you know, hover rig spunk shads. I actually threw this deal too, where I actually had the HD hover rig in there, and I had seen how this might work in the pool, so I tried it. And it's crazy because even the difference between the HD hover rig and then this, which has the lighter hover rig, the 5/0 1/8 ounce with that weight in the bottom, completely turns this bait from something that they would follow, and I got like 1 or 2 fish, like a couple 2.5 pounders on this, to like a limit of fish in 5 casts with this when that bait was doing that rocking. So kind of crazy stuff, and something that a lot of guys, again, aren't really doing, or if they are doing, they're not talking about it. So this is a really, really cool technique. If you want to try it with some of just the standard jig head stuff and the Demiki style with that Sakamata shad and that body balance head from Megabass, you can do that. Again, you can use that HD hover rig if you don't want to worry about the nail weight option, or you can add the nail weight and get that new 5/0 1/8 ounce core tackle hover rig for those bigger flukes. Absolutely awesome. I got my rod. Oh my goodness, guys, I am dropping everything. I'm just gonna leave that in there. Declassified, we just kind of roll with it. But got my setup here. This is the rod and reel I use with this deal. This is actually the bait I have tied on right now for my next trip. I haven't tried this yet, but this I just got from Tackle Warehouse. The Fish Arrow Flash J. It's a 5.5, 6-inch fluke style bait. I have that 5/0 1/8 ounce core tackle hover rig, and you can see I have that weight in the belly of that bait. So that should, in theory, rock. It's a heavyweight bait too. I wanted to get this heavy. This actually has a tungsten weight in it. I think this is like a 3/16 ounce tungsten weight. It's a big one. And I've been catching a lot of fish on beaver in like 35 feet of water right on the thermocline right now. And so I'm trying to get this bait to sink relatively quickly, so the heavyweight fluke with that heavier nail weight, I think it'll cause that thing to rock but fall quicker, so I can get this bigger bait down to those fish in deeper waters. So that's kind of why I have this rig on, and I'll link all this stuff down in the description if you guys are interested. And for my rod, I actually throw a pretty specific setup with this. Because these baits are so big and I have some heavier stuff on here, I'm actually pairing this on a 7'4", medium heavy power, fast action Denali Lithium Pro multi-purpose spinning rod. 7'4", longer rod, pretty good backbone to it, so it allows you to cast these bigger baits, and you can actually, fish them without having it overpower your rod. Pairing that with some 20-pound braided line for my main line, and then for my leader, I'm actually throwing 12-pound Sunline FC Sniper fluorocarbon. I have a pretty long leader on here. My line's falling out. There we go, but got that 12-pound fluorocarbon leader. That 12-pound line is just a little bit extra assurance with this bigger bait, and it just doesn't overpower your rod and your equipment as much if you're throwing 12-pound. You can go down to like 10, but I've tried it with 8 and 6, and it's just a little bit too thin of a line for these really big baits. And I'll go to, again, 20-pound braided line. I actually put a really long fluorocarbon leader with my FG knot to my braid. I've been doing that for a while now. A lot of people ask me about it, but I don't like to just put like an 8 or 9 foot leader. I'll put like a 30 or 40 foot leader. I don't find that it really messes up too much, other than the line sometimes spinning out when you're just messing with it here on the table. But when you're actually fishing, it just gives you more leader line, which gives you more protection from, seeing the line, but also I don't have to retie my FG knot as much, and I haven't had any issues with it casting or anything like that, so that's something I've been doing. But kind of off topic from what we're talking about here, but yeah, that's kind of my setup, and just a Denali Fission Pro spinning reel on there. And really, this technique is not that different from the Demiki rig style deal that a lot of guys have been doing on tour and you're seeing, but I just think you're going to start seeing this a lot more at the professional level, guys. A lot of guys are starting to go to these bigger Demiki baits, and again, they're keeping it really, really quiet. So you'll be seeing this hopefully on Pro Tour coming up soon, and you'll see, oh, I saw that from Johnny first. But other than that, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. You learned about some new ways you might be able to target some bigger fish. One thing I will say on this is that you're not going to get as many bites with this as your standard Demiki stuff. So if you're used to getting 10, 15, 20 bites a day on your small Demiki stuff, if you go to this bigger stuff, you may only get 5, 8, 10 bites a day. A lot of fish are going to come up, look at this bait and not commit, or even just grab the tail. But when you do get one to commit, it's going to be a bigger fish. It's the size fish you're going to want in the tournament if you're a tournament guy, or if you're just a big fish guy and you like catching bigger fish. That's what this is for. So don't go out and expect to get 40 bites a day on this deal. It's definitely a bigger fish technique, but it absolutely crushes them. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, leave a like down below. All the baits are linked in the description. We'll see you all in the next video.